we're going to make a start because we are aware that many people have zoomed in from literally all four corners of the globe, and we're just delighted to have you all with us. And we're imagining that more people will join us as the event unfolds. Now, as promised, the emphasis really here tonight is on the doings. We don't want to take up too much of this precious time with our being a set of talking heads. So firstly, welcome, a very, very warm welcome to you all. And just to say something about this PhEminar series and how it has come about, it's very much an emergent from the PhEmaterialist community. So we're responding to what our members are interested in presenting and inviting us to participate in. And this first PhEminar was in fact in response to a query from one of our PhEmaterialist members about ethical responsibility and networking. And so we responded to that query, that question, and we fashioned this particular event around that in the hope that we can explore it together through our doings. Next.
Oh, hang on.
So here's just a little insight into the sorts of things we've done in the past through our PhEmaterialist activities, conferencing and gatherings.
2 dream days in London. Braiding, weaving, collecting, penning, moving, stringing, networking, mapping, becoming.
A mesh. Knot in the knotted of knotting, feminist thinking in action, connected, relational, nourishing.
Inspiring, fun, engaging, respectful, cutting edge, and feminist change makers.
Bodies of effective residues entering skin, invading cells, mutating them, making us become something else.
Okay, and this is just a little taste of what you can find the full version of this on our website, PhEmaterialism.org. But these are the principles that we feel underpin our work as a PhEmaterialist network. And it's very much about practice and practices that matter and materiality and making a difference in the world. And we are collaboratively doing this work. We're connecting, we're supporting each other, we're learning from and with each other. And ultimately, it's about practicing responsibility, which is the key focus of today's event, ethical responsibility, which we'll unfold, unpack and play with as the hour unfolds. Okay, next, and over to Jessica.
Hi everyone, it's good to see you tonight. So some of you may well know some of this, but I am going to tell you about the genesis of the PhEmaterialism network. So PhEmaterialism, the big words that it stands for is feminist, posthumanism, and new materialism in education. And it's a working group that brings together a globally dispersed assemblage of students, researchers, and artists, and more who are experimenting with how posthuman and new materialism theories and methodologies can reassemble educational research. So PhEmaterialism broken down literally combines feminism, posthumanism, and new materialism, and then the capital E highlights education. And we started as a working group 5 years ago now in 2015, because planning obviously started quite a bit before our inaugural 2-day conference that was jointly held at UCL in Middlesex. And it was called Feminist, Posthuman, and New Materialism Research Methodologies in Education Capturing Affect. I think affect has always been very central to what we're trying to look at and the theories and methodologies that we are entangling with and grappling with. And the organizing committee for that initial event was myself, Anna Hickey-Moody, Jane Osgood, E.J. Reynolds, and Red Ruby Scarlet. And interestingly, PhEmaterialism as a notion happened because the morning before the event, we were rushing to create a Twitter account on my sofa And we're trying to shorten the name, and then suddenly EJ said out loud, PhEmaterialism. And so platform affordances interacted with our concepts, and our identity was born, and it has really flown and moved since then. Next. Just to say that the film, the PH, which we add to lots of things, the credits for that are, the first film was created by Amelia Jenkinson, who is now a CEO of a NGO, and the second was created by Audrey Jean, and we always are working in collaborative assemblages and networks with lots of different artists, activists, and students who are helping us and working with us in our network. Next. So, I mean, we could say so many things about the background, the theories, the approaches. It's very much grounded by feminist philosophies and research questions. And we're very interested in work that troubles longstanding, what Karen Barad calls ethical onto-epistemologies. And we want to ask questions of educational research and pedagogy, such as how are we as researchers entangled within our research practices? What new modes of representation and impact are being called into and are we entangling with when we look at the ethical urgencies of the Anthropocene? How does research intersect with art and or activism? And what can data and research do? And these doings is what we really want to think about today, these interactive doings. What do we do with what data and research does and to us? I actually have gotten a little bit of this. We've written an encyclopedia entry, myself and Alyssa Nicolini. If anyone's interested, we do have some of these materials on our website, and we're very interested in profiling everybody's materials and concepts and ideas and thinking on our website, which we're going to get to in just a little bit. Another resource that we compiled, which we're really extremely proud of, is a double special issue. It's like 2 books that we did for reconceptualizing educational research methodology on the theme of PhEmaterialism, responsible research and pedagogy, which was co-edited with our team and Katie Strom. Oh, I was just going to say that it was 29 researchers from around the globe, which we're really proud of. Yep. And so like the wider field that's embracing post-human new materialism turn, the papers and the special issue, they span a huge, diverse range of creative methodologies and practices, and they showcase, an ethics of responsibility, where academics are engaging with so many different stakeholders and issues and concerns in their research. And it's looking at knots and nodes that spring up in terms of responsible and responsive research practices. And these practices include arts-based, creative methodologies, post-human subjectivities, research activism, and the list goes on and on and on. So it's just a tiny, tiny taste. One thing, we all, of course, have to do our reading and writing and publish or perish, but we are committed to trying to disrupt the sort of like the only output from our academic labor and love are these academic articles that sit nowhere, 10 people read, and they're totally inaccessible. So we're really committed to disrupting and troubling the sort of like academic situation that we're in, moving beyond these type of like constant push towards micro niche publishing for like a 300-pound book that nobody can afford, and tying everything back to our performative branding and impact machines in our higher educational institutions. So our website is our sort of joint labor of love to try and put things out there, make things accessible, open up networks, and sort of try and break apart some of these very troubling relations that we find ourselves in when our labor is bought and sold through these capitalist publishing machines that we're entangled with, but we're trying to trouble at the same time. Yep, and I think this passes over now to back to Jane. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks. So yeah, this was just a note about our very recently launched and beautifully curated by Sid Mohandas, who didn't want to be mentioned, but we can't not mention him because he's done such a fabulous job. So this is the website. This is the place where you can go, so PhEmaterialisms.org, to access all the resources that Jessica has just outlined there, but also crucially to be a part of it. We want you to feature as network members on that website and to showcase the work that you're doing, so your publications and your doings and your practices. And we've invited you, I hope, to fill in a pro forma with details, biographical details, and some examples of your work that we'd really like to have on our website. And the website itself is very much an emergent space, and it's intentionally diffractive and unfurling and tentacular, and is very much committed to the philosophy and praxis that Jessica has just outlined there. So it's a collective, collaborative, generatively expanding space, and we really want you all to be a part of it. Next. You, EJ.
Is this me now? Aha. Okay. As Jess and Jane have outlined, each wave of our PhEmaterialist gatherings have involved doings. So we really wanted our first gathering to involve some kind of making what matters come to matter in some way. And just as we've created this whole PhEminar series, it responds to what our members wanted to share and do. We've also created an activity this evening sparked from what members had shared with us during the call for participants, which actually included a lot of fears, disclosures and struggles to navigate unethical and irresponsible practices in the field. So in the spirit of responsibility, the ability to respond, and working within the constraints of the conditions of responsibility in this kind of Zoom world that we're in at the moment, we're inviting you to think about your own particular practices of engagement, of what ethical responsibility means to you as feminist researchers. And what we're not going to do is kind of have breakout groups or kind of a talk shop. What we've tried to experiment with, and we'll see if it works, is we've chosen a making activity which can continue to be on the make when the session ends. So it's a little bit of an experiment, so let's see what happens. Now, of course, you might all want to vent with the impossibility to embrace all the kinds of responsibility that Haraway and Barad write about on this slide, but maybe also we might have more affirmative responses. So the activity might invite inventive rather than kind of venti ways we're all trying to do PhEmaterialism, and how we can support each other in the journey, in ways that attend to the care and concern of what comes to matter when we do our research. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen to talk you through the activity. We sent out some instructions about bringing materials with you. So as I talk through what we're going to do now, if you haven't already downloaded the Padlet, please do. But the QR code is on the screen here. So this actually, if you have a mobile phone, it will just take you directly to the Padlet. But I'm going to share my screen now so you can see the activity that we have in mind, and we'll just see where it takes us. So this is the Padlet. This is where that QR code should take you. And I'm just going to shout out here a big one to Leanne Cole, because Leanne's work with the Padlet has been something of a miracle for us. So I'm really hoping this takes off. We've used it a lot in practice for teachers, and I know lots of other people might use it, but we're just experimenting to see if it will work with us today. So guiding question: how can the PhEminar series keep ethical responsibility moving and mattering in the world for feminist researchers and their praxis? So on the blue screen here, I'm just going to take you through what we're asking you to have a go at. So first is to draw a few cloud outlines on a blank bit of paper or anything you've got to hand. Ta-da, here's one I made earlier. And as you're cutting them out, if you want to cut them out, we're inviting you to choose one research encounter that helps you think about what ethical responsibility means to you, how it matters in your research. So we're casting research quite widely here, so it can be reading, composing, making data, engaging with policymakers, meeting other researchers in events or conferences like this. So however you want to configure what research means to you, then run with that. And it doesn't have to be a research encounter. Sometimes it's easier to start with something concrete rather than kind of work at a more abstract level. So we're asking you to use the clouds to make your ideas matter. So you might share a concept, a quote, you might post a question, a provocation, just a scribble. And we've just uploaded a couple here that we did earlier just to get the ball rolling. So I've got one here about chairing the ethics research committee and using my privilege as professor to really think about that, but then have some questions around what counts as data, how do we get crafty with institutional ethics. I've got a concept I'm actually working with at the moment called compromise. I've got stuff around mountains. Jess has put some up there around her research and what she's grappling with. So we've just populated it just for now to see how you want to give you kind of ideas really about the variety of ways of uploading on the Padlet there. So if you want to upload what you create, and of course you don't have to, it's totally up to you. You just go to the bottom of the screen there where there's a little pink plus sign and you click on that and it will take you to a title and you can upload a photo here or just type something in the text. And if you don't like what you've put up, you just delete it and it will just disappear. And the other thing with Padlet is you can comment on other clouds. You can start to make connections and that's another feature of it. So you can just click here on the comment and you can write something. And that's how you can create a kind of webs, if you like, and comment and make questions as you go. Now, during or after the session, depends how we go. We've should have about 40 minutes. When you've finished, if you pierce a hole in each cloud and you thread it with a bit of string, you can then create your own mobile. We've got some ones up there ready. So it should look something like this. And these are just mine. But what you might find is you quite like some of the clouds. You might start to create a mobile with other people's kind of ideas as well as you get going. So we'll see how it goes. But the idea really is just to kickstart a process to see what happens. And we'll just see where it travels to. The idea is that a link to this Padlet will be available to everyone who participates in our PhEminar series. And it will remain live until the PhEminar series ends. So it'll be ongoing for about 1.5 years. So it does mean that you can just keep going and people can add to it and comment on it if they want to. And like with all matterings, we'll just see where this takes us.